So I just want to say welcome to all the panelists or all the attendees, and I see people coming in, and we'll kind of, I'm sure we'll see people trickling in as we go here. And so we welcome you to our chat and hope that we can entertain you for the next hour or so. I thought maybe, guys, I would start things off. We sort of touched on it just a few minutes ago during our side chat. So what we're talking about today is a novella collection that we each wrote a story for, and I have the book to hold up, but you can definitely just look at one of the other ladies' backgrounds. Julie Cannon and Shade and I wrote a novella for this book, and so I want to ask you guys, how was it writing to a theme versus being able to just kind of do your own thing? And
it was easier than I expected it to be. I'm not used to getting a concept from someone and then having to write there. I haven't done that since high school composition class. So I thought it'd be more difficult. The most difficult part was coming up with the characters and the story itself. But once I did, everything flowed out really easy. I surprised myself.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I was thinking, how you're right. Here's an assignment, now write to it. Like, oh, okay. Well, in some respects, it was difficult because of that. But the other side was like, oh, okay, now I know exactly what I'm supposed to write about. And so that took a lot of the mystery out of it. And oh, gee, what do I write about now? What's the next story that's kind of out there in the fringes? But then it was, okay, now what's the story going to be? Who is it going to be? And what is it going to be? So, so I agree with Anne. It was kind of a little easier and just a little bit more difficult at the same time.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that too. It was, it gave you just enough framework to know what direction to head, but it gave us enough freedom to be able to kind of write our own story. But then I found myself in the middle of it. You know, you always have that middle part where you question things about the story, and found myself going, well, am I hitting the secret admirer thing, or am I drifting from the theme, and is it going to fit well with the other stories? And we didn't have a chance to really read each other's stories or even know what they're about when we started writing. So,
well, and I always wondered, is this going to be interesting to anybody? And because mine is a true life thing, and like, well, is anybody really going to be interested in, in something like this? So it was interesting. I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it.
Well, Julie, you and I got signed around the same time. I'd like to think of us as like the class of 2007.
Yes.
We were like a month apart, I think.
I remember that.
Yeah, I can speak to how prolific you've been since then, and I would say you never have to wonder if people are going to like what you're writing.
Well, I appreciate that, Erin. And I remember meeting you. You and I were kind of like what I felt like the lost souls at the GCLS conference in some place. I don't remember. Atlanta. Was it Atlanta? Yeah. And it was kind of like, okay, I'm much more of an introvert than, believe it or not. And it's like, okay, who do I talk to? What do I do? Oh, here's somebody else that's sitting over here all by herself. And you know what? I know what that means, what that feels like. So I'm going to go introduce myself to her. So,
right.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah. Well, and we were both in the unique position of having really just been signed. So we were technically Bold Strokes authors, but neither one of us had a book out yet to promote. Yeah, so
that's right.
It's interesting.
Yep.
That's how I felt at Provincetown, my first Provincetown in 2019. My book hadn't even been released yet. And I was like you, technically a Bold Strokes book author, but still hadn't had anything released. I had no idea who anybody was. And I was the new kid on the block and was scared witless.
Yeah, and you kind of think, am I really one of these people? Talk about imposter syndrome. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to ask, because you said that your story was true to life. How did that feel, sharing something like that?
I don't know. It was kind of interesting. You know, the names were changed to protect the innocent, and so to speak, but it sort of was true to life, but then again, a little bit was, you know, you have to make some up to kind of fill in the blanks and things like that. So you know, there's always a little bit of me in everything that I write, whether it's the name of the street I grew up on, then some names of friends, families, where I went to school, that sort of thing. So there's always a little bit of me somewhere in there. So it was kind of autobiographical, but kind of not really at the same time. I know that answer probably makes no sense whatsoever. So Anne, how did you come up with your thought about it?
Mine, the whole secret admirer letter thing, I actually did that when I was in high school to somebody that I liked. I didn't want to tell them outright. So I started writing poems and, you know, poetry and these little letters to them. And, you know, from your secret admirer, or I happened to take classes with them. So I would kind of tuck it in their book and walk away. And they never knew it was me. And it was probably good because I think they were dating somebody else anyway. So nothing ever came of it.
You know, is that one of those, remember back in grade school, I like you, do you like me kind of notes that you passed to somebody?
A little more, because it was high school, it was a little more detailed than the I like you,
okay.
like me. My poetry was fairly deep back in high school. I don't know if I was possessed by some older, wiser woman or what, but I think because I wrote so grown up, I think that it kind of threw off the person that I was writing the letters to, because they're like, you know, I'm 16. What is this? So I wanted a story to have a happy ending with that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny though, the amount of angst that we can find as teenagers, when looking back now, we had no idea what it was like to worry about things and have things like that. I mean, everything was so important then, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
In the overall scheme of things, but at the time it is. Now you're like, pick your battles, and is this really worth losing any sleep over or spending any amount of emotional, you know, BTUs on? But yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal at the time.
Yeah. And those back then, especially with the little secret admirer letters, or when they had Valentine's Day, when they had the little flowers you could send to someone as a secret admirer. I don't know if anyone else, I might be aging myself here, but if they still do that, but you'd be able to send like buy a carnation and have it sent to someone and then have it delivered to their classroom or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So Erin, how did you feel when Sandy and Rad reached out to you and said, would you like to write a novella to be in Valentine's Day? How'd you feel about that request?
You know, I actually felt pretty good about it. I was struggling to come up with my next project at that time. And so Sandy kind of reached out and was like, you know, this might be a good project for you. It's going to be a little shorter format and a little, you know, so it might be a good kind of just keep you going project. And so I was thankful that she did that. And I mean, I like the idea of a novella collection, because I feel like somebody who might like your writing or Anne's writing and hasn't necessarily read anything by me might, you know, enjoy my story as well. And it kind of gives the reader a chance to say, well, here, I can get 3 authors for the price of 1. Let me try these 3 out. And then I'll, you know if I want to go back to their backlist. So I was happy that she did that. And of course, I mean, I knew y'all's work and was thrilled to be included with you.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Anne?
Basically this is basically like a test drive for people. Like Erin said, this is the test drive for people who want to read our stuff and haven't read it.
Yeah.
I was actually honored, especially with such well-known authors, to be put in that bunch. I actually was like, are you sure you want me to join this group? I don't know. But in the end, I think I liked it because it was a novella. I tend to, which has been the problem lately with my last couple of novels, is write. I tend to go long. And I thought I wouldn't be able to do that with this. I thought I'd go long and not be able to keep it within the word count that it should be. But I think because of the story and the whole Secret Admirer and Valentine, I tried to keep within like a 2-week time frame. So it worked out perfectly. So I was happy and honored to be asked.
Yeah, I was as well. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I wasn't really doing anything like you, Erin. It's like, oh, okay, what's I'm waiting for inspiration to come and knock me off my feet, and then this came in. I thought I could do this, and the problem I have is I can write 30,000 words or half a book without even getting out of breath. After that point, it's like, okay, now what? Now what? Now where? There's the first third, the middle third, and the final third. The first third just kind of goes 20, 25, 30,000 words, just booms. The middle point, you're pulling your hair out. You know how it's going to end, but how do I get there? I thought, well, I can do this. This is short and sweet. And I had just come off publishing a novella of my own with 3 short stories in it again. So I can write 30, 40,000 words without batting an eye. So I kind of took it as an opportunity, plus to get back into it. Again, like you said, Erin, if you're not writing all the time, it's hard to get started again. It's hard to get going. It's hard to get the creative juices thinking. I wish I was one of those people that could sit down and write every single day. When I'm working on something, I can, but if I'm not, it's too easy to find something else to do sometimes, and then you're stuck. You just have to, and that's what everybody says the secrets are. Just put something down on paper every single day. So yeah, I took it as a great opportunity to kind of get my feet back into it and get going again.
Now, which do you all prefer, novellas or full length, or it depends on your mood?
It really depends on my mood. There's definitely, and actually we just had a question come up in the Q&A that sort of fits to this. Jane Fletcher asked, if you're used to writing longer novels, how do you adapt to the shorter format? Do you feel like it helps your writing style to write a tighter story? That is definitely the difference, is you're writing a tighter story. Now, the upside of that is you don't need as deep a conflict because you're not sustaining it for as long. So you can write more of a sweet, sort of fluffy romance story. And so I like them both for different reasons, but there are definitely differences in writing the shorter format.
And also you have to make sure that you capture everything in that short format. If you plant a seed somewhere, you've got to make sure that you nurture that seed or you kill it somewhere in that shorter format. So especially when you're used to writing full-length novels, you have a rhythm, you have a routine, kind of know what's going to happen, how to develop that character. And developing a character takes 60,000 words, especially if that's what you have always known and have always done. Now you have to develop this character and make it interesting in a shorter period of time. And it does get to be a little bit challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I've learned recently doing this that I do like doing the novellas. I did it with my first novel, Femme Tales, because it's 3 novellas in one book. And I said, okay, I kind of like this because I can fit as much in as I can, still get the story told, still get kind of the meat of the story, get a little bit of conflict, but still end it on a good note in a good amount of time. But there are some stories, like, it depends on my mood. There's some stories where I feel like there needs to be more, and it can't be just wrapped up in a pretty little bow within 30,000 words. I need to add more to it in order to get the point in the story across. But I'm like you, Erin, Julie, where I'm like, first 30,000, I'm good. Then after that, it's like, okay, I'm sludging through. And then I get to the end, I'm like, oh, God, okay, I know how it's going to end, like you said, but where am I going from here?
Yeah. You start to, I get to the middle third and I start to struggle a little bit. And then I kind of psych myself out because I start to think, oh my gosh, am I just am I bored with these characters? And if I'm bored, does that mean everyone else is going to be bored too? And
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't even be writing this book to begin with. And you kind of get in your own head
Yep.
about it. And then, but then when you do something like this and you talk to other authors and they're saying the same thing, you're like, okay, well, we're not all writing boring characters. I mean, obviously this is just a psychological thing that's going on with us, but you both touched on this. And I think it's interesting that I had actually just come off of writing a 3 novella collection as well. And it was a first responders collection, and they all kind of could be read standalone or intertwined. So it's kind of interesting that we had all already written our own novella collection and then came into this project.
Yeah, and I got my inspiration to do that from you, Erin, because I had read that one.
Oh, really?
And I thought, I could do this. I could write 3.
If she can do it, I can do it.
If Erin can do it, I can do it. But I said, well, I could do that. And then it's like, so how would I connect to them in some way? Would they be completely different? You know, I liked how yours were interconnected, and you know, mine are as well. And I don't know, Anne, are yours interconnected as well?
Yes, the characters in Femtales, they're all friends. The 3 main characters, they're all friends. So they show up in each other's stories. So they do connect.
And I think so that's what makes it easier, because you kind of know what all 3 are going to be. You want to connect them because you want your readers to be able to have a character and be invested in them, and then here's the next character versus something completely different, and their entire mind needs to reshift, I think. And the thing that I like about them is, you know, we all, and every author probably does the same thing. There's this little bitty thing on the bottom of the screen that says word count of your document, and it's everybody. You can, and everybody says you can, but it's kind of, that's everybody's nemesis. It's like, crap, I'm only at 7,000 words. Oh, or I'm at, you know, 33,842. Oh, wow. Okay. So that either is a motivator or a demotivator. But when you're writing a novella like this, you're like, oh, 15,000 words. I'm halfway done. Okay, I could do this. So it depends on how you want to use those little numbers as a motivator, for sure.
So to get back to the Valentine theme, what's your favorite Valentine story or that you've experienced? And for those who haven't read the book and haven't seen the little story that you may have prefaced your anthology, your novella, tell us what's your most romantic Valentine. We'll start with Erin.
Okay, so I didn't necessarily use my most romantic Valentine story in there, but my Valentine's Day, I guess best Valentine's days are bookended, right? So the very first Valentine's Day that I spent with my wife, we were at her house, and you know, she had gone through a breakup a little while before we got together and hadn't totally got to refurnishing the items out of the house that had been taken by the ex. And so our first Valentine's Day, she didn't have a dining room table. So we spread a blanket on the floor and cooked dinner and ate dinner by candlelight. And so that was our first Valentine's Day together, right? So that's always a kind of a great memory. And then fast forward like 12 years, and we were going out with some friends for Valentine's Day. It was another guy couple and then another guy friend. So there was 5 of us for Valentine's Day. And it felt very like just comforting, because these guys are, you know, in the 12 years, 10 years we've been together, or I don't remember what year that was, but they've become part of my family as well. And it's all goes back to, you know, her. So it kind of was very a warm memory for me. So those are probably my 2 favorite Valentine's memories.
You know, and mine probably was what I had put in my at the beginning of mine, you know,
which is a very sweet story.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was kind of like my best friend was involved with Laura, my now wife, her best friend, and it was this big secret thing together. And we were going to have this plan, and each one was going to get the other one over to my house thinking they were going for the other person. And it was just this whole thing. And this was back in, what did I say, 1992, when people still wrote checks. And, you know, Erin, you know, you talk about your wife who didn't have furniture, you know, nobody back in those days, early on in my career, you know, I didn't have nothing. And so we wanted this event to be special. So we bought, you know, I went out and we bought placemats and you know, doily things and table centerpieces and all this stuff. Well, I didn't have any money. I was about 3 days away from payday. And so I'm writing checks all over town, and I shouldn't say it, but there wasn't any money in those checks to cover it until a couple of days later. So, you know, but that was back then where you could kind of float a check for a couple of days. And I ended up with quite a few insufficient check funds, debits to my account because of that, but it was all worth it because we really wanted it to be special. And then we all went out dancing after that. So that was fun. It was a good one.
Yeah, I liked reading that story. I thought that's sweet. I guess mine would be, I was at work and I was told I had a visitor, and went downstairs to where the visitor was supposed to be, or went to the lobby, and there standing with a thing of roses was my wonderful husband. And just to surprise me, I had no idea he was coming or anything. And he gave me the flowers, took me out to lunch. I think that was the most, you know, the sweetest one that I've had. But we don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I've never been big on Valentine's Day, but I think that was one of the few times we did, and where I was like blushing. I got back to the office. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's so sweet. I wish my husband would do that. I wish my wife would do that." And I'm like, eh.
And you said, well, I'll rent mine out for a certain price. Of course,
There you go.
that's right. Yeah. Well, and I think, Erin, in your preface, you said, you know, you don't, every day should be Valentine's Day, and it should. You know, what makes it special is yes, it was special, and that your husband did that on Valentine's Day, but did he do something like that on September 8th? Just
Yeah,
because?
see, that's the
Or
thing. Like
see,
he
that's
will
the thing.
surprise me. Yeah, he
Mhm.
will surprise me. He surprised me with the trip down to South Jersey. He got a bed and breakfast, and it was for no particular reason. It was just a weekend. We were going to the shore just for the day.
Mhm.
And then he got a bed and breakfast, and it was his birthday. He was surprising me. So it was a nice little, you know, twist, but he does little things like that for me. So.
And do you do it back?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yes.
good.
I surprised him with the weekend in New Orleans.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. We try and do little things every now and then, just to
Mhm.
kind of, you know, show up for lunch or go out to dinner once in a while, or just sitting, you know, even if it's as simple as watching a TV show, depending on what the show is. If he sits through a romance with me,
He's a keeper.
yeah.
And how long have you been married?
Married 26 this year, together for over 30. We met in high school,
Mhm.
and he accepts me for all that I am. You know, so I'm quite lucky. I have
Well,
my own lifetime Valentine.
well, and you know, and I think that's really important for those of us that have been with people forever. We're we celebrated 31 years together, Laura and I, and it's how do you do it that long? It's things just like you said, Anne. You've got to get out of the everyday mundane crap and make it special, whatever that special is.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, it is all about keeping the romance alive, regardless of what the day of the year is. We
Yeah.
don't do anything for Valentine's Day anymore either. Um, other than say, oh, happy Valentine's Day. But it's the
Yeah.
stuff that you do the other 364 days a year that show your Valentine or your special someone that they are special and you appreciate them, because it's harder to keep them than to get them. And so
Yes.
how do you keep them after all this time, are doing all those special little things?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Erin? Do you have a special little thing, something that, you know, you and your wife do that's just kind of a thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's like you said, it's whatever's special to you. And it doesn't have to be anything big. I mean, you know, we've certainly taken trips together that I would say were romantic and are incredible memories. And I hope that we have many more. But I mean, it's as simple as, you know, knowing that I like to go to the movies and she doesn't. She would rather, you know, watch a movie at home so that she can get up and do other things when she's
Mhm.
not totally into the movie or whatever. But I like the experience of going to the theater every now and then. And so, pre-COVID anyway, she, you know, if there was a movie, she would go to the movies with me just because she knew I liked that experience. And to me, that's, you know, that's something special because I know that she doesn't really enjoy it, but she does it for me. So
Mhm.
just little things like that make you realize here's a person who really knows me, and who loves me anyway. You know, good and bad. So
I say the same thing. I
I
say the
know.
same thing.
I know. Do you often think, how does that happen? How does that happen? So those of you, you know, that are on the line that are, you know, in you know, put in the chat, if you have a special someone, do you think the same way? How do they like me for me? It's like, ugh, would I like me for me? That's and I have a,
That's-
go ahead,
sorry.
Ann.
No, you go ahead.
There was a I've gotten into, Erin and I were talking about this earlier. I've gotten into woodworking, and I'm accumulating all these tools, and they're not cheap. And I was making something, and it's like, man, this just isn't coming out. And Laura, she doesn't care if I'm out in the garage till 10 o'clock at night, other than she comes out and says, you know, it's time to come in because the neighbors probably want to go to sleep or something. And but I was complaining about something. It's like, geez, this isn't coming out. There's too much work or whatever. And she said, well, what do you need? You know, what would you need to get? And I said, I need a planer. And she said, well, then get one. I said, the planer I want is like $600. And she said, well, so what? Go buy it. It's like, really? Just go buy it. It's going to make what you do and what you enjoy doing come out well. So just go buy it. It's like, okay. Okay. Went to the store, bought it. So it's, you know, it's things like that. And you're right, Erin. It's what do you do for them because you know that they like it versus whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. That's for the story that I did. Bouquet of Love. I liked the idea of someone doing something because they know the other person likes it. Colette writes these love letters to Alyssa because she's overheard this conversation that Alyssa wants to be wooed. And not too many people would take the time, you know, to sit and write a letter to someone just because they heard that they liked having letters written to them, or that they like to be romanced, or they like to be wooed. So I like that little tidbit that that's how their relationship starts, with that old fashioned wooing. And it also kind of hits home for Alyssa because, you know, her wife that had passed, and this isn't any spoilers, this happened way in the beginning, folks, but her wife that passed was also that type of person. You know, she wrote her letters because she knew she liked them, or she took the time to, you know, encourage her and to be there for her, and, you know, made Alyssa more aware of herself and who she was. And I think things like that make or break a relationship with a couple. And I think things like that is what is more romantic, for someone to say, you know what, you're looking really good today. You know, my husband did that to me the other day. We were walking and he stopped and he looked, he said, you looking really good there. I'm like, okay, you know, if they can make you blush after 30 some years, then that's a good thing.
Well, and I think that, you know, the important thing with that is you didn't like poo-poo it. Like, no, I don't. I got on these crummy sweats and I'm stinky, and
Yeah.
you know, I was just worked in the yard all day. You know, you minimize what they've said.
Yeah.
And you do that after a while and they stop saying it. So
Yeah.
regardless of how you think you look, if someone would say that, like your husband did, it's like, oh, thank you. You know, you don't have to be all gussied up and dressed up and smell really good for someone to say, you look really good because we
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we love people in different ways, you know, different things we think are sexy, or they're, boy, you're like really hot when you're out there mowing the lawn, or you know, whatever it happens to be. So you have to embrace it. You can't just, oh no, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But Anna, you just mentioned, and I want to kind of touch on this. You just mentioned that your character, one of your characters, had a wife that had passed away, and I find it interesting. I also, in my story, had a character who had a wife that passed away, and it's interesting to me that when thinking of a Valentine's novella, we both kind of explored this whole, you know, well, maybe there isn't one true love for everyone, but you know, you can have these multiple, you know, relationships in your life that are so meaningful. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
I believe, because I think I believe in soulmates, but I also believe that a soulmate may not be a romantic soulmate. They may be a friend who just you connect with so well. They could be someone that you fall in love with. But I also think that people touch your lives in different ways, and that they come into your life at a certain time when you need someone, or you need that in that person. And for Alyssa, her wife, Shayna, came into her life at a time where she needed someone to encourage her and to help her see not just her outer beauty but her inner beauty. And here's this wild, crazy Irish redhead, you know, who was the complete opposite of her, who kind of helped her come out of her bubble, which is what she needed. And now she's out of that bubble, but now she doesn't know what to do with herself because the person that brought her out of it is no longer there. And so here comes Colette, who isn't the wild craziness, but she's kind of like that. She comes at a point in Alyssa's life where now she needs the tame, she needs the easiness, she needs the subtleness of love, and not the wild craziness of love. So I think it's important that, you know, people understand that. And then also for older characters, you know, I've always wanted to do a story for an older character. She's 50, you know, 50 some years old, and she's rediscovering love again. And I think it's important that people see age is not just a number, you know, it's experience, it's things you've learned, and you take what you've learned and you move on with your life.
Yep.
So would you want to do something like this again? Another Valentine themed novella, if we did this every year?
You know, I definitely would. I don't know if it would ultimately become mundane, meaning like every year something comes out, or if it was so special, especially, you know, from the Bold Strokes Books viewpoint. It's the first time I believe that we've done something like this, and so that's what made it even more special. But it's easy to do. It would be easy to do because there's, you know, 50 billion stories in the world.
Yeah.
And 50 billion different ways that people have found a connection to someone. And you know, maybe it would be a platonic Valentine, like you said, and you connect with a soulmate. It doesn't necessarily need to be a romantic one too. So I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, if we had a different theme every year, not necessarily a secret Valentine, but a different theme. Erin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely up for another novella collection, regardless of the theme. I enjoyed the process of it. I'd be interested in a novella collection where we worked together on each of the novellas. I'm not sure how that would work, but it'd be kind of an interesting idea. And like Julie said, I mean, it doesn't have to be Secret Valentine. It could be a different theme, or a different, you know, there could be maybe they're all in the same setting or something like that. So yeah, that could be interesting.
That is something I've also wanted to do, was work with other authors on something like that. But I'm always paranoid that I won't, that I feel like I have to compare myself. I won't be up to their level. They'll read my stuff and be like, do you really want this connected with?
Well, I mean, I would hope that if you get with the right people, that it would be about finding your strengths versus theirs, and realizing, you know what, maybe I'm not quite so good at this part of it, but Julie is really good at that. So let's, learn from her, and then where I come in, we did just have somebody in the chat say that instead of Valentine's Day, Linda said we should do a St. Patrick's Day thing. So, it's an idea.
Green beer, I like that. We could do that. That would be
Three friends out on a night out on the town doing a bar crawl, and they meet the loves of their lives.
There you go. That's good. Each one, yeah, you're right. Each one of us has a point of view. So I'm character A, you're character B, and Erin's character C. And we ladies, we need to be careful because Sandy's on the line listening.
I know.
She probably will come to us and say, "Hey, what a fabulous idea. Let me say."
I realized that after I started talking, I'm like, "Ooh."
Creating your own work together. But I have always wondered how, to your point, Anne, like Kim Baldwin and Xenia, I can never pronounce her name, but they partnered on the Elite Operative books. And I've always wondered how people work together like that. One of them does the dialogue, one of them plots the scenes or the characters, and you've got to be able to work really well together to be able to do that. Especially when you
have to have I feel like you have to have like a certain link or, to sync up that way.
Yeah.
It's I think that's something that has to be, between authors that have, someone, like Melissa and Georgia. I could see them doing something like that. Authors that have kind of like that connection where you could see them building on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It might be easier though than when Kim and Senya were doing it, because I remember Kim talking about during certain parts of the book, she would have to go to Greece. Not that this was a hardship, but she would have to travel to Greece, and so that they could be in the same place for those crucial points in the book. And so at least now with Zoom and everything, you can be in a different part of the world or a different part of the country, and you're not down to just writing emails or sending manuscripts back and forth. You can have these kind of conversations where you actually get a back and forth about story and plot and things like that. So
right,
it might be a little easier than when they were doing it, but
yeah. And then what do you do when you have artistic differences in terms of where the character should go or the plot line should go, and you've got to be able to work through all that. Yeah. What do you say to people who think Valentine's Day is nothing but like a Hallmark moment designed to make money?
My brother, oh my God, every year he posts on Facebook, oh, well, happy fake Valentine or happy Hallmark date, or he's such a Scrooge when it comes to Valentine's Day.
Is he single?
No.
Okay.
So I don't know how his girlfriend's feeling about that. But every year he does that. Christmas and Valentine's Day, he's a Scrooge. But I think it's a sweet holiday. I know you're supposed to, like you said, 364 days a year, you should also do things, but I think it's that one day where you can just take a moment and do something a little extra special, to do something a little, that you wouldn't normally do on the other 364 days. But I also, I also don't celebrate it that often anymore. So, but I still believe it's a sweet holiday.
Yeah, I think it's, it is what you make it, right? It's like anything else. You could argue that Christmas has become too commercial, or, a lot of holidays. But, it's what you make of it. And if you're the kind of person who feels like they need to go out to a lavish dinner and, take a limo and do all that, and you have the means to do that, then great. That's what it means to you. For me, I try to avoid going out to dinner on Valentine's Day because I don't like the crowds. I don't like the way that restaurants inflate their prices, and or at least that's how it feels. And so it's more about spending the time than it is about going out and doing a big thing. So.
Yeah, I used to, when I, in my single days, I would do, if I was seeing anyone, I had my signature a romance meal, and it was linguine marinara, cheesecake, and then champagne with fresh strawberries in the bottom of the glass. And that would be my Valentine's kind of thing that I would do. And it was corny, but it was something, it was, I didn't have a lot of money. It was better than having to go out to dinner, make reservations, or like you said, deal with the inflated prices and things like that. But
and and I keep going back to your soulmate comment and how back when I was in college, there was a bunch of us, and we weren't connected with anybody. We didn't have a Valentine, if you will. And so we always just went out and did our own thing as a bunch of girls and guys. This group that I hung out with in college, there wasn't any romantic anything between any of us. And we just said, well, we are our own Valentines. We are each other's Valentines for this special day. And so we just went out and had fun.
I remember our school used to have a Sadie Hawkins dance. So the girls had to ask the guys, which turned out to some really bad incidents, but
yeah, probably some broken hearts along the way too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh goodness. So it's interesting. It's Valentine's Day, all things romance and romantic are complicated. Love is a 4-letter word, and it can be a good 4-letter word or it could be a bad 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Depends on what you do and how you approach it. And I think, I'll ask the question of both of you is, if there was one thing on your list of the top 10 things you need to do to have a wonderful relationship with someone, what would that be? So it's not the number one thing, but there's a list of 10 things that you really need to do to have a strong relationship, or it could be 20 things, I don't know, but just so it's not your top thing you need to do, but what's one of the things that you think you need to do, Anne?
I think be open to talk, to have open communication, be open to try something new. Because especially when you've been together, as you know, you've been together for a while, things kind of get stale and you need to freshen things up. And I'm not just talking in the bedroom, I'm talking about just in life in general. But just to be open-minded enough to admit that, okay, things aren't going as, wonderful as they could be. Why don't we take a break? Why don't we do this together? Why don't we go on a little hiking trip? Why don't we just do things like you said, the other person, Erin, you were saying your wife doesn't really like going to the movies, but she goes for you. So things like that. Just be open enough to be willing to do something with your partner, to spend time with your partner and have an open communication with your partner.
Yeah. How about you, Erin?
Honestly, I think we need to be able to laugh together. Because, we've been together for almost, it'll be 13 years this year, and we've been through a lot. We've lost my dad, we've lost her mom, COVID, and we had, my brother-in-law was seriously ill during COVID, and then just the stresses in life in general, career changes, things like that, all these big things. And a lot of times just knowing that I have someone by my side who like gets me and gets my weird sense of humor, and I can laugh with her despite whatever is going on, that's one of my favorite things in the world, is when I say something that just makes her just flat out laugh out loud. And I don't know what it is, but that is like one of my favorite feelings in our relationship.
I would say, and that's good. And you always wonder, is she laughing at me or is she laughing at what I said?
Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right.
She's laughing.
It doesn't, it doesn't. I think it's, never take the other person for granted. I see, like, if you just go to a shopping mall or into a parking lot, a Target parking lot or a Walmart parking lot, and you see two people get out of the car together, and one of them just heads towards the store and doesn't like turn around to see if they're the person that they came with is there, is coming, is, you know, they don't wait for them. They just go. And I think, you know, you're kind of taking and, you know, making huge assumptions that they're a couple. You're taking a huge, you're taking them for granted. And well, if you came to the store together, shouldn't you be together? At least while you get there. Now I can see I'm going over here and I'm going over there. Okay, that's great. But just to go off and do your own thing without your whoever your partner that you came with, I see that a lot, and it just irritates the heck out of me. And Laura had gotten into that mode, and I remember one time, you know, we just got out of the car and she just like started headed towards the store, and I said, "That's it," and I just stood there. Just see how long is it going to take her to realize I'm not beside her, or like right, you know, 2 steps behind her. And I just stood there, and she got all the way into the store before she turned around and looked, and I'm still standing by the car. You know, like, duh. And so she came back and was like, "What's going on?" And I explained it. She said, "You know, you're right." You know, so just things like that. You know, pay attention to the person that you're with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and her being able to come back and have you explain it and say, you know what, you're right, and validate those feelings versus, well, that's kind of stupid. Let's go in the store. You know, I mean, so
Yeah.
being able to do that and being able to, okay, we don't have the same feelings. We don't have the same things that trigger us. We don't have the same things that irritate us, but I can try to see yours, you know,
Mhm.
and validate them as something that really bothers you.
Right. Yeah. Mhm. So,
Yeah,
well,
I think validation is very important in any relationship, friendship or otherwise. For instance, Alyssa's best friend validates her feelings and validates, you know, I know you miss Shayna, but you need to, you know, move on. She would want you to move on. So when you have someone in your life, whether it's your partner or friend, validate what you're feeling, it's a major, I think, coup in the love department, in that 4-letter word being a good thing.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I know we have just a few minutes left because this is a 50-minute session, right? Roughly.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So what are you working on next, Dan?
I am currently in, my book is with the editor, Securing Ava. It's a kind of a suspenseful romance. And I'm working on 3 Wishes, which is a fairy tale retelling, sort of an Aladdin-esque kind of thing, but from the genie and the princess's point of view. And it's a contemporary, so it takes place currently. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Good. Good. How do you find the time?
I work from home. Been working
Hallelujah.
from home since the pandemic, and we're
Mhm.
not going back till June. So I have my work computers here and in person. So I do this. I spend a lot of time spinning in my chair.
You get your core workout too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there you go. It's important to keep those lives separate so that you can focus
Yes.
on whatever you're focused on.
Exactly. Exactly.
How about you, Erin? Do you have anything cooking in your brain?
Well, currently I'm working on a wood and resin serving tray that,
Yeah.
no, you know what? I do have some things cooking. I have some ideas that are percolating, but haven't, I'm kind of giving myself a little break and trying not to stress myself out about having to be in the chair. So I'm letting my creative energy go other places right now, and eventually it will lead me back to my next project. So
Send good vibes to you.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and I think that's the key. You can't force it. If you try to force it, then you're miserable and just crap comes out on the page. And you go, this is just crap. And it's a catch-22. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, this is not any good. This is not this is not any good because it's not any good because you're trying to force it. So yeah, I'm working on a book about woodworking, about the setting is a woodworking shop, and Erin, you cannot take my idea.
You're just trying to write off all your tools. I know what you're doing.
You got me figured it out, huh? Your accountant told you the same thing mine did, right? So yeah, it's set there, and so it ties in two things that I really like. So you got the romance in there, and then the woodworking. It's a setting, and I thought, what a perfect setting to come to a class and this, that, whatever. So I don't have a name yet. I asked, I told Sandy that I would do it, and then I don't know, a month or so ago, I asked her, so what's the latest I could turn this manuscript in to have a 2023 pub date? What's the latest I can do? As obviously other things have been taking place, and we moved, and got just boxes everywhere, all that stuff. So what's the latest date I could turn this in? That's what I'm shooting for, is that date. So yeah.
And I want to thank everybody, thank both of you guys, because I feel like we could talk for about another 50 minutes and keep this going. And if we get into woodworking, it's longer than that, but
it is.
And thank everybody for joining us this
Thank
Saturday
you,
morning,
everyone.
and giving up some time on your weekend. So
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.